What's up, poker people? My name's Wes, and this is my poker vlog. Today we're back playing the 5-5 no limit cash game session at Texas Card House in Houston, Texas. I'm gonna buy into the game for $3,000. Wish me luck. This is for entertainment only. I am not a professional poker player. I'm not trying to be a poker coach. I'm trying to share the fun of the games I'm playing. Enjoy the action. I'm just going to tell you guys now, this vlog has the most controversial hand I've had on the entire vlog to date. You're going to have to find it later in the episode. This is not clickbait. It's regarding an all-in or call and what the player actually said. It is a doozy, and I'm in the hand. Stick around for that one. In this hand, I have ace-4. There was a $30 raise pre-flop. I called from the small blind, as did another player. I check called 60 on the flop. Now I've turned 2-pair, but it checks around. It's time to get some value on the river. The pot's 275. I bet big, I bet 200, hoping somebody has an ace without a king. This player that we're waiting on initially limped and then called the raise, so he shouldn't be quite as strong, but he does call. I show 2-pair. He doesn't look very happy. He's not even moving his cards. That's what we call vertical cards right there. That means he has the worst hand. Don't forget, at the bottom of the screen, you can see the hand number and my VPIP percentage. This hand, I have a $25 button straddle. We get a couple of limpers for $25. I look down at Jack 7 suited on the button, and I'm just gonna check and see a flop. So basically I flop a gut shot with 1 over. It's not a very good hand. If that deuce were a club, maybe I'd be a little bit more excited. This was a limp pot, and now this guy wants to bet 75 bucks. I'm just gonna give it a raise and see if he'll fold maybe something like king, queen, or a pair of 6s. Oh, vertical cards, and he mucks. Once this session gets going, you'll notice I did insert pictures of my stack between hands, or at least after the important hands. The video footage at the very beginning of this hand is going to be a little bit grainy. I was working on getting my camera set up, had a little issues, and this is from the live stream, which I hadn't figured out how to maximize the quality on until later this day. I called a raise in the big blind with 9-7 of diamonds, and it comes ace of heart, 6-8 of diamonds, open-ended straight flush draw. I go ahead and check, my opponent c-bets, and I'm gonna check raise. I make it $100 to go. So over to the button, and he calls. The turn is a 10. This never happens to me. So I have the absolute nuts with a straight flush redraw. I bet 225, just praying the button has some sort of ace, and he calls. Okay, the river's a king. Unless this guy has queen jack, we have this locked up. I gotta make a good big value bet. Maybe he even has ace king. He'll call a lot if he does. I bet $625. Let's see if he'll call. Oh God, what if he raises? If he raises, that would be so sick. Right now I'm just praying for a call. He does call. I show my hand, and he mucks. I can't believe I didn't make a straight flush. This is the part of the vlog where we analyze someone else playing a hand. The button has queen jack offsuit. He limps in for $5, which I don't love. The small blind raises, big blind calls, and he does call the raise to see a flop. Wow, what a flop. Let's see what happens. The pre-flop raiser c-bets. It's over to the button, and he just calls $75. The turn is an ace. This is a great card. If the small blind was c-betting with something like ace king, he's now got an ace. It's very unlikely he has ace queen. We don't need to worry about that. I think we should just call this bet. The small blind bet 150. Let's just call and let's get value on the river. Good call. I like the way the button's playing this, other than the limp pre-flop. The river's a 3, so now we have a full house. Queens full of 3s. The small blind checks, and now it's time to think about what's the right size to bet Did he just table his hand? Oh my god, he checked behind. What? That's horrible. That's just horrible. I don't know if I need to say this, but man, you just have to go for value when you finally get lucky. You can't let other people do that to you and then not do it to them. There's a raise to $35 in this hand, and I'm in the big blind, and I look down at 5-6 offsuit. For some reason, I decide to call. The flop is 5-8-10 with the 10-8 of diamonds and the 5 of hearts. Since I'm not suited, none of this means anything to me. So he c-bets $75. I flop bottom pair. He could just have overs. I'm going to see another card. I call a 75. Let's go to a turn. 2 pair. The turn is the 10 of spades. It pairs the top card on the board, giving me 2 pair, but possibly giving him 2 pair. But if he doesn't have a pair, I don't want this card to check through because I could get counterfeit now. So I decided to lead out $200. If he just has some sort of ace-high hand, he called. So he definitely doesn't have ace-high. All right, well, I don't know what to do on this river. Well, it's a deuce, so I guess I'm not going to rep anything. Just going to sit here for a minute and probably check, I guess. Yeah, I check. He checks behind and I show. Oh, he did have a flush draw and 2 overs. I've got that $25 button saddle on. We got a limper. And the hijack makes it $75. Well, I've got ace queen. It's going up. Make it $225. The limper gets out of the way. Now it's just me and the hijack. He calls. I have ace of diamonds, queen of hearts. The flop is king, king 10 with the king 10 of diamonds and the king of hearts. I do have the ace of diamonds, which could be important in this hand. He checks to me. I'm going to c-bet. I make it 200. Using card removal, if this guy calls, it's more likely he has a pair or a king than a flush draw since I have the ace of diamonds and he does call, so maybe we should be worried. The turn is the 5 of spades and the hijack checks again. Well, guess what? I don't really think much about card removal. I'm just going to bet this. I bet $425. The hijack's thinking about it and he folds. You PLO guys can keep your blockers to yourselves. Here's your first look at what the stack updates are going to look like. It's not pretty, but it's there. No straddle in this hand. It folds around to the cutoff who makes a raise. I'm in the small blind with pocket sixes. I could 3-bet this, but I just want to see a flop. I call the $30, and so does the big blind. 3 ways to the flop. The flop is 9-6-3 rainbow. All right, we flop a set. It's a rainbow board. This is a pretty good spot. We check to the cutoff and he decides to bet $60. I don't see any reason to raise just yet. I'm gonna call. The turn is an ace. Now we're starting to find some reasons we can raise. We want him to have an ace. We can check raise this card and hope he thinks we're just bluffing. We go ahead and check and he bets $125 and I raise to $305. It's time to start putting money in this pot. All right, he calls. The river's a brick, it's the 4 of hearts. Unless this guy has 9s or aces, we're taking this one down. We want him to have ace king, and we're gonna make a big bet, targeting a hand like ace king or ace queen. I bet $725. Oh, he's all in for $1,200. Ah, maybe he does have aces. I call, and he shows 5-7? He has a straight. What? 7-5 was a double gutter that I actually had considered myself, but I didn't mention because I didn't want to distract from the hand, but I did know that that was a possible holding that he could have. You guys have been asking to see more losing hands, misplayed hands, and even bricked draws, and I've been listening. I've been adding them to the last few episodes, and this is going to be one of those hands. I should not be raising this hand. I don't know what I'm doing. Basically, I'm trying to punish these limpers who just keep limping in, but this is just not the hand to do it with. Sure, I'm last to act, I can bomb it, but I should be waiting for a better hand. I should just check and see the flop. But now that I've done it, let's do it right. The flop is 10-4 deuce. There's no way I have the best hand, but I'm gonna go ahead and bet like I do. It was checked to me by the only person who called. I bet 150. Let's see what he does. He calls. So now we use position, range advantage, and this turn card. It's a 4 of spades. I was hoping like for a king or something. All right, well, he checks to me again, so I'm gonna bomb it again because we're gonna get this guy to fold. That's just basically what this comes down to. We're gonna bet, and he's gonna fold. I bet 350 bucks. Watch that muck over there and just wait for his cards to just fling right on in there. He's just gonna fling them in there. Now, when this hand happened live, this guy tanked for what seemed like over a minute before he called. I honestly didn't know what that meant, but I knew the river, I was just gonna bomb it. I was gonna put them all in, no matter what the river card was. So he checks, and it's time to do this. He has just under 900 bucks in his stack. I'm gonna put it all at risk right here on this river card. Oh, he called. He must have a 10. No, pocket fives. This is one of those spots where even though you know they're weak, this is just the wrong board to try this on. Sad stack. Hey, I added on 2K. I'm in the cutoff in this hand and it just folds straight around to me. I look down at 2 garbage cards and I don't put them in the muck and I don't know why. In fact, I put some of my chips in the middle. And I have 9-8 offsuit. Now when it gets around to the big blind, he's gonna make a raise. He makes it 110 to go, and I don't even fold then. I don't know what I'm doing. So I call the 110. The small blind's caught in the middle, and he decides to fold. The flop is queen 10-7 rainbow, which gives me an open-ended straight draw. Now that I'm here, I'm gonna be playing this hand. The big blind decides to c-bet 150 bucks. I think I'm just gonna call. I'm in position, we're heads up. I don't have to worry about anybody else. I can bluff a lot of turn cards, so let's go. The turn is a 6. Oh, I make a straight. I have the nuts. This never happens to me. My opponent has about 2.5x pot. Oh, he goes all in. I call. I have the nuts. I call. I have 9-8. I play good. The river is the 7 of hearts. It does pair the board and it puts a backdoor flush, but he mucks his cards quickly. I played that horrible. I'm in the small blind in this hand. We have an early position raised to $35. It's going around the table. We got a few people calling. I look down at ace jack suited in the small blind, and I'm just gonna call, see a flop. The big blind calls, and we're going multi-way to the flop. You can't tell because the audio's off, but I'm in the middle of a really intricate story. And actually, I guess I forget that I didn't raise this hand and I just bet right out into the pre-flop raiser. So I bet 75 bucks and now I get min clicked back by the under the gun player. I don't even remember thinking, oh, that's what I get for leading out. I literally think I thought I raised this hand. So I'm never gonna fold. I remember thinking at the time, he could just have a jack and think he has the best jack in his raising, so that's why I called. The turn gives me a flush draw. It's actually a pretty good card, and he snap checks behind. I probably have the best hand, so the question here is to value bet or not. I can beat King Jack and Queen Jack, but I can't beat Jack 10 and any other hand such as a set or two pair, so I check. I must have the best hand because he didn't bet. He shows 6-4, he flopped two pair and only got one min clickback out of it? This guy's playing me like my dad played me one-on-one in the driveway as a kid. Under the gun +1, I look down at ace 10. There's a $10 straddle, so I make it $30 to go. Soft dad calls. And the big blind gets in there too. We're going three ways to a flop. I have ace of spades, 10 of hearts. Well, I flop an ace. The flop is ace, queen, jack with the ace, queen of diamonds. Definitely gonna c-bet this. We have top pair and a gut shot. I don't have any diamond draws though. I bet $50. Now soft dad makes it $150. This guy hasn't gone for value since he signed up for a Diners Club card in the 80s. I don't even think I'm gonna call this. I can just fold, right? Yeah, I just fold. There's a limper and a raise to $50 from the middle position player. The button calls and I have 10-7 of diamonds in the big blind. I call $50. The under the gun limper also calls. We're going four ways to a flop with 10-7 of diamonds. The flop is 9-8-3, the 9 of diamonds and the 8-3 of spades. I flop an open ender and I check. The pre-flop raiser bets $150, which causes the button to go ahead and ditch his hand. It's around to me. I don't think I want to check raise this hand. I'm just gonna call. So I call $150. The other player folds, we're heads up. The turn is a king of diamonds, which now gives me a flush draw along with my open-ended straight draw. I still think I want to check, so I check to the raiser, and he bets $300. I'm more than happy to call this. I don't want to raise just yet. I call 300. And the river's the deuce of diamonds. I backdoor a flush. Now, since it's very unlikely that he's going to put me on a backdoor flush, I prefer to check this card. But he just checks behind. Nice check. Nice check. I win. Looks like I'm already up about $2,000. I'm winning and I haven't done anything dumb in a while, so now it's about time that I raise it up with 7 deuce. Actually, this is going to be a 3-bet. The guy on my right made it $20 to go, and I decided to 3-bet to $75 because this is a funny hand. It'll be funny to show people, right? I mean, I'm live streaming this. Don't they want to see something funny? And now the big blind cold calls my 3-bet. This is going to make it hard for the other guy to fold. Sure enough, he calls. We're going 3 ways to a flop. I have 7 deuce of clubs, and the flop is queen 8-5. Well, there is an 8 of clubs out there, so I guess I'm gonna c-bet. I'll make it 125. The big blind calls 125, and the other player folds. Well, at least we know that 3-bet worked. Oh, I turn a 7. That's not too bad. He checks to me. I'm just gonna check. Let's get a free river card. Oh, a deuce! I river 2 pair. Oh, this is gonna be funny. All right. The big blind's thinking about it. He's putting a bet together. What is he doing? He bets $350. Man, you don't know how bad I want to raise this. I just don't think I can. The board is queen 8-5-7 deuce. Man, I have 2 pair, but I think I'm just gonna call. I call and he shows 9-5 of diamonds for a backdoor flush. Okay, this wasn't funny. He may have taken away my joke, but he can't take my chips. Getting right back on the horse after that hand, I put a $50 under the gun straddle out there. This hand's gonna start with a couple people just limping in. I look down at jacks in my straddle. I stop the dealer, remind him I straddled. Doing a little bit of math, and I make it 300 to go. The first limper is putting some chips together. And he back raises me? He makes it 1,000 to go. And now I have to make a decision. Does he just think I'm too aggressive on my straddles, or was he actually trapping me? Do you guys remember that hand from God Mode where this exact same thing happened, and the guy ended up putting $3,000 in when I had queens? I'm just thinking about that hand. So I ship it in. He's got about 2,000, and he doesn't snap call. I guess I was right. But he does eventually call, and we're going to a flop. Oh yeah, I'm not winning this hand. Just put an ace out there, go ahead. I can't even beat ace jack now. Yeah, he has ace king, he scoops a huge pot. Nice hand, bud. I did some work after this hand in a range analyzer, and I came to the conclusion that queens plus would be the correct shove and that jacks is actually a fold, so I guess I made a mistake, and look at the next flop. This chip stack just looks like nobody cares about it. Let's do another one of those hands where we analyze someone else's play because I'm tired of seeing myself misplay things. In this hand, I make it 50 bucks to go, and our hero, Soft Dad, calls with pocket threes in the cutoff. He knows how to flop well. The flop is 8-3 deuce. Now that I check to him, he should definitely bet here. I think he's gonna bet around 75. Oh, he checked. The turn is the 6 of hearts. Now the out of position player bets 50 bucks. It's a really small bet. This is when Soft Dad decides to raise, when there's actually more hands that can beat him. But since he checked the flop, he's now forced to try to use the turn and the river as the two streets of value to get value for his set. The out of position player has a decision to make, and it looks like he's gonna call. The river is the 6 of diamonds, pairs the board, and gives Soft Dad a full house. What a great card. Now he can get that second street of value. Did he just check? Oh my god, he checked the river. And the Global Poker Award for the world's friendliest poker player goes to Soft Dad. All joking aside, that guy actually was a really nice guy. It was his first time at the game, and I hope he comes back. I'm not a dad, so when people limp on my $20 straddle and I have basically anything, I like to punish them. I'm gonna raise this one up. I've got pocket nines, under the gun, I make it 120 to go. The button limped in and the big blind limped in. Let's see if they want to call 120. Well, the button does. We're going to a flop. I've got the 9 of diamonds and the 9 of spades. Flop is king 7-5 rainbow. I think I can check or bet this flop, and I decided to check. The button also checks. The turn is the king of clubs. I have the same option again, and I decide to check, and the button checks. The river's the 9 of clubs, and this is where things get weird. Listen in.
Needed that flop on the first hand versus the ace queen.
Oh.
Victory. Oh.
Hold on, I didn't know you went all in.
No, you said all in.
Huh?
You didn't say all in.
No, I said call.
Now we've got a real problem. Did he say call or all in? I added a couple filters to remove the chip shuffling and the background noise. What do you think he says?
Needed that flop on the first hand.
Doesn't he say all in?
That flop on the first hand. That flop on the first hand. That flop on the first hand. That flop on the first hand versus the
And watch the dealer. I didn't say anything. He clearly thinks he said all in. He throws him the all in button. Listen to the dealer say, I heard all in.
Oh,
That's what I... You have to tune my voice out to hear it, but... That's what I... The two of us heard all in, but let's see how the hand plays out.
Oh, I said call.
Okay, that's fine. I heard all in.
I heard call.
That's fine.
Yeah.
For sure, I heard a call. Then he said, I didn't know you went all in.
No, that's all good.
Yeah, I
I heard...
100. I said call.
No, it's fine.
That's what freaked him out. He goes,
Yeah, you were about to.
I didn't know you went all in.
Okay.
I was like, what?
Two pairs no good for 1,000?
Bro, I was really fucking confused.
You're wide enough. You don't need to go wider.
He definitely said call. I knew this guy.
We both heard the same thing.
I heard all in.
I didn't say anything. What you couldn't see was the look on the player's face when I added more chips on top of my 100 after he said call or all in. He was completely shocked and confused. And even though I heard what I thought sounded like all in, as soon as I saw his face, I knew something was up. And as we all talked about it, the two players next to him heard call. Me and the dealer heard all in. So I think it's one of those Yanny Laurel things. It sounded like two different things. And I actually trust this player. I don't think he was angling or anything even close to that. Just picture another $1,000 in this stack and it'll be accurate. All right, let's get back to playing some hands. Raise under the gun to $30. The button calls, and in the small blind, I look down at two black 10s. I decide to just call, and the big blind calls too. We're going 4 ways to the flop. The flop is Jack 4-3 with the Jack 3 of spades, and I do have the 10 of spades. I check, the big blind checks, and the under the gun raiser decides to c-bet $65. It's over to the button to decide what to do, and he folds. I call 65. The big blind folds in disgust, and we're going heads up to the turn. The turn is a 7 of diamonds. I'm just going to check this card, see what this guy does. Don't touch the muck. And he checks behind, which makes me think he doesn't have a pocket pair. And now the river's an ace. I'm definitely not going to bet this card, so I just check. It's over to the pre-flop raiser, and he actually takes quite a bit of time before deciding what to do. He puts in a bet of 130. This is one of those times you just gotta look at your man and say, do you got it, buddy? Or you just don't care about $130 and you call. And he shows that he also doesn't care about $130. This hand starts out with a middle position player making it $40 to go, and the hijack flats when I look down at red pocket queens. Let's bump it. I make it 175. The players who have put no money into the pot take a little bit of time to fold, and it gets around to the pre-flop raiser. He decides to call, as does the hijack. The flop is stupid and just shouldn't exist. It's 4, 5, 6. As soon as I saw this flop, I knew the player in between was going to lead out. He's the only player that can smash this flop, and he bets $350. The flop has 2 clubs and 1 spade. He could have a set, he could have 2 pair, he could have a straight, he could have a straight draw, he could have a flush draw. But I'm going to call one time. It's too weak just to fold queens on this flop to a lead. Let's see what the other player does. He folds, and now we're heads up. The turn is a dumb 4 of clubs. Now the guy goes all in for about $1,000, and I just have to let this one go. It's annoying, it's frustrating, but bye-bye pocket queens. In this hand, the cutoff raised and the button called, and, well, I'm just gonna let you listen to it.
I can't go pretty word. I don't believe it either. When I saw the video.
Guys, I don't have a good hand.
Swing those.
Check.
Should be a good game. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be weird if I said I didn't have a good hand, but then I check raise?
I can believe it.
Go.
Hold your money.
175.
Heyo. We had a pair.
Did it? He did it.
Yeah. I figured. I was like, I don't know if I want to give you a free card. Does my wrist look fat? Alright, back in my favorite place on the button with a straddle. The small blind limps in. It's over to the big blind who makes it $80 to go. The cutoff calls, and I look down at Queen Jack offsuit on the button. I'm gonna see a flop. I call $80, and so does the small blind. The flop is King Jack 6 rainbow, so I flop middle pair with a pretty good kicker. The small blind checks. The big blind checks. The cutoff also checks, and I decide I'm just gonna check. Oh, I turn a jack. I have tripped jacks on the turn. The turn is the jack of diamonds. The small blind leads for $80 into $300. I'm not just gonna let him get a free draw of his flush. So I make it $275. He might have a jack and will just call me down, which is what I'm really hoping for. But I need to make him pay if he has any kind of draw. He goes in the tank. And he ends up folding. I hope I didn't scare away a weak jack. Can someone tell me if this is $5,000? Back on the button again, this time with a $50 straddle. The small blind just limps in again. That seems to be his MO. I look down at ace 10 suited. I'm gonna bump it up to 200. He's probably just gonna call again. And he does. Let's see the flop. Stop punching the table. The flop is 8-7-7 with one of my suit. I could see bet this flop or I could check. I can see an argument for both. The small blind checks and I decide to check behind. The turn is a 10. It's the 10 of clubs. Small blind checks to me, and now I do think it's time to bet. I bet 175. Small blind cuts out chips, and he makes the call. The river's a jack of hearts. Small blind checks and I check, and he shows ace jack of clubs. I actually think he could lead that river, but I understand why he checked the 4 cards straight. Is that even 2K? This entire session was live streamed on YouTube. You can actually go back and watch it right now. I've had a lot of success with this hand on the vlog. And during the session, the viewers in the chat kept telling me to take a break and go for a walk. But I don't really tilt the way that most people do. I just wanted to battle and grind my stack back up. And you can see that in this hand. I lead out into the pre-flop raisers for $200 and everyone just folds. I'm not going to play scared, I'm not going to back down, but I'm also not going to go crazy. I don't have to get unstuck in this session, but I want to get back as much as I can. So that looks like about $1,100. Let's keep track of it. And for the next 3 hands, I will be playing Jack Deuce. Alright, in this hand I was the under the gun straddle for 10. I checked my option with what we call the Choctaw nuts. If you've ever played a Choctaw, you know that's the Jack Deuce offsuit, and I flopped 2 pair. Since it was a limp pot, I'm just going to go ahead and bet out. I bet $35. The player on my left calls, but since he had used up all of his chips and he was waiting for a brush to bring him some more, you don't see any chips being put in the pot. In fact, you'll notice the dealer keeping track of how much he owes by creating a separate pot of how much that guy needs to put in the pot when he gets his chips. The turn is a 10 of clubs. I still think I have the best hand, so I'm going to bet for value. I bet 125. Ghost chips calls and the other player folds. The river's a queen of hearts. Maybe this is time to end my value train. It's the 3rd heart and it's the queen. He could have any number of hands that beat me, so I check and it's over to ghost chips. He checks behind and shows Jack 10. Ah, Casper got me on the turn. That little devil. Okay, next hand. Ha! 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 Funny, poker gods. Actually, I thought this was funny enough that I made it $100 pre-flop. This is the very next hand, and I have Jack Deuce suited. Sometimes I can get myself in trouble, but if I see something funny like this happen, I just have to go for it. Unfortunately, I get called on my left, and I get called on my right. The flop is 9-3-4 with the 9 of clubs, and I have Jack Deuce of clubs. I decide to c-bet $120. One thing about the Choctaw Nuts, you have to bet it. I wasn't gonna mess it up twice. Okay, look, I'm not gonna play this hand again. This isn't funny anymore. I check. Ooh, look, a jack. Okay. I'm not gonna go crazy. But he only bet $25. Maybe he just has a flush draw. I call. And the player on my left calls. The turn is a 3 of clubs, which gives me a straight draw to go along with my pair. And now the guy bets $50, and I just call again. The river's a 10 of clubs. He checks, and I check. No good.
Oh my god.
Free rolling me. In a pot with a bunch of limpers, the small blind makes it $50 to go, and I look down at King Queen offsuit in the big blind. I call 50. I've got the King of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs. We get one more caller, we're going 3 ways to the flop. Oh, the flop is King, Queen 3 with the King, Queen of Spades. The pre-flop raiser checks, and I bet 125. A middle position player calls, as does the small blind. The turn is the 10 of diamonds. The small blind checks, and I'm gonna bet again. I don't think anybody turned a gut shot, but there's always a chance. I decide to go pretty big. I announce $350. This leaves me about $600 behind. I think this is the perfect sizing. The middle position player calls 350. He leaves himself about 400 behind. As we're waiting for the pre-flop raiser to decide what to do, I realize he's asleep, but I have to nudge him to wake him up, and he folds. The river's the 8 of clubs, and I have only one option. I'm all in. He snap calls, and I show. Oh, he looks disgusted. I think he had a worse 2 pair. He has about $400, and that goes into my stack. There's a $30 button straddle with a couple limpers, and the player on my right just makes it $75. Practically a min raise, like he's trying to set up a train wreck on this table. I have Jack 9 of spades, and I call, and everybody who's put $30 out there already is gonna call. We're going 5 ways to a flop. I flop a jack. The flop is Jack of hearts with 3-4 of diamonds. I'm in the cutoff. It checks around to me, and I'm gonna go ahead and bet this. I make it $200. The players on my left fold. And now the under the gun player goes all in for about $270. The player on my right, the pre-flop raiser, he calls pretty quickly. We're going to a turn. The turn's the queen of spades. That doesn't help me at all. It goes check, check. The river is the four of clubs. All that does is pair the board. It goes check, check again. Nobody wants to show right away. The all-in player shows eights, so I show my jack, and I take it down. This is my stack after stacking all of those chips. And this is my stack at the end of the night. I made an okay comeback. Man, that was a roller coaster of a game. After getting into the game for $5,000, I ended up cashing out $28.85 for... After getting into the game for $5,000, I cashed out $28.85. Not great, but it could have been a lot worse. I'm glad I didn't lose the whole 5K. I definitely made a comeback at the end, and I'm happy about that.